So we're going a little old school today, using the phone instead of the camera, but I'm over here at my dad's house and like this background is prettier. So we're gonna borrow it for the day that I have it here. So anyways, I have finished draft 1 of my witchy book. So this is the book that I have tried to write a few times. I tried to in 2019. I revisited it. I think it was 20 or 21. I revisited it and I still, like, it got better, but like not great. Like now it is much closer to what I want it to be. And it's not even been edited yet, but like, it's just so much closer. So this book, if you don't know, if you haven't followed along for all of the updates, this is my death book. This is handling death as a witch. It's a practical guide because there isn't one. I have tried to look for years. There is nothing that has the information that I feel like should be in there. So if you don't see a book that you want to exist, sometimes you gotta be the one to write it. So I have. So now, instead of just rituals and things to deal with death, which is what the first iterations of this had been, it is a much more practical and well-rounded approach because it talks about more than just witching your way through it. It has practical stuff too. Like, you very likely are going to need to know what kind of paperwork to gather, especially if you've never gone through a death before. You're gonna probably not know all the crap you need to find out if you can find out before they're gone or find out from other people. Like, there's just certain things that you're gonna need to know about. And also the options that are becoming available. And like, those are changing every year. Like, just this year, terramation, also known as human composting, got legalized in, I think it was Washington. And even here, I called and talked to one of our, well, my mom called for me because I have phone anxiety, but she called and talked to one of our local funeral homes. And they actively were like, yeah, if that's something you want to look into, like, we know the place that you can go to, and talked about like what happens with aquamation, which is kind of what I figured. They did say that it was like either Washington or Oregon, that they will take your leftover liquids and put them on like a tree farm. But here you just go down the drain. They don't have any like things set up with that because like it's Utah. The fact that we have that option is still kind of freaky. Like, the Mormons don't approve, to say the least. So anyways, like, it's so much fun to finally have this book done and to talk about all of these options because a lot of people don't even know that they exist. Like, I didn't know aquamation was legal here until I started on this journey, and I was like, oh, well, that's what I want. Because like, and it's about the same cost as a cremation. Some people said it was the cheaper option. It was on par. Because like, when my grandpa was cremated in 2020, it was about $2,000, and an aquamation without anything else is like $1,800 as of current. So like, it's on par. It's not like the cheaper option. Like, $200 in the grand scheme of a funeral is like literally pennies because it's all expensive. So anyways, moral of the story, like, I'm rambling about this, but I'm so excited to have this book done. This is one that I have wanted to have done for so long, and I really think it's going to help people. Like, there's one on how to write an obituary. Of course, there's funeral rites, there is grieving rituals, there's things to do like as the person's dying, and then also like afterwards, like visiting the graves. And then I've also included some stuff at the end for some death deities, like kind of the major ones. Not going into every single culture, but kind of your top 5, you know, for witches. So like, you're gonna find Wicca, Greek, Celtic, Egyptian, and Norse. And I know the Norse isn't usually like your top 5, but also when it comes to death, everyone knows of Valhalla. Obviously, everyone knows about Odin, but most people don't know about like Ran or Hel even. Like, there's a lot. So I've tried to find deities for kind of the main ones, and like, you can make a lot of associations for different ones, but these are kind of like the ones, you know. Like, for Greek, like, obviously you're gonna have Hades and probably Persephone because she does become the queen of the underworld. And like, then there's also the dude who is like death and is basically like the Grim Reaper. And like every one has a little bit of a different thing. The Celts are super difficult, so like I gotta look through my books to see if I could find anything, because like truly I don't know that I will. But I'm just so happy that I actually have not published, but finished this draft, because this draft is 52,600 something words, and I know it's going to be more, because I definitely kind of skimped out on the last bit of this book. Like, I ended up writing when I felt like utter crap. Like, I was having a flare-up, but I wanted to get it done. And so I did. It's done. But the thing is that now, like, I have to actually still, like, add to it. So, like, it'll be kind of easy. Like, my last chapters were, like, only a couple hundred words each. And a lot of the other ones are in the thousands. So it won't be difficult to bump these up. And I know somebody had asked what page count it is, but I will explain that really quick. Page numbers mean jack shit, because your page numbers vary on the format of the page. Because right now, my Google Docs page is going to be far less than the publication pages. Because when you publish, that book is going to be so much smaller on the page, because you have to have the margins big enough for the binding to happen of the book. And so, like, your page numbers almost double when you hit publish. Also, we has the kitty cat to come say hello. But anyways, so instead, that's why authors use word count, because that doesn't change no matter what format you're using. Whether you use, like, what size font or anything like that, how many, like, because a witchcraft book is going to have a lot of pages, because there is a lot of space involved. You know, you have a lot of lists of, like, here's your instructions, here's your ingredients, here's, like, the prayer or whatever. There's, like, the saying stuff. Those take up far more room than block of text. So I go off of word count. That's how most authors do, and that's why. And so for mine, to keep in mind, to give some level of context, I think my first book was like 177, 78 pages, was about 50,000 words. So about almost 200 pages of a book. And I think it was a 6x9 book, if I remember right. But regardless, it varies. So again, that's why I go more off of word count. And like my latest book that I just published is a little over 100,000 words. I think it was 101 something. And that thing is almost 600 pages. It's like 560 something pages. Like, it is massive. And so I am kind of leaning towards trying to get closer to that word count, because I want to make sure everything is explained as much as I want it to. And my first draft of that book, I think, had been closer to like 40,000, and I managed to get it up that high. So, like, inevitably, this book is going to be relatively big, my nonfiction book that I'm working on. But I'm so excited. I'm going to take a little bit of a break from it, like a week or two, and then I'm going to come back. And I think I'm going to end up editing it a little backwards. So typically you go front to back, obviously. With it being nonfiction, it doesn't necessarily need to do that. And I think I'm going to start at the end and work back through the book, because the first half of the book is very heavy and the second half is not nearly as much. And so start there with kind of a fresh mind coming at it. And then I'm going to get my draft of it done in June. That is my due date. And then July, it will be getting handed off to an editor. And in July is when I will also be starting my next project. Because, of course, like, in order to write 4 books a year, I have 3 months that I spend with each book. And that might seem a little crazy to people, but at the same time, there are authors who publish every single month. They spend 3 weeks with a book. That's a little too fast for me. So I think sticking with 3 months is good, because this way too, I don't have time to let imposter syndrome and excuses kick in. And like, I've seen so many writers and like friends and acquaintances who say that they want to write, but then like they don't put in the work for it. And it's like, you know, at some point, like, the authors who are doing it and the authors who are wanting to do it, like, the difference is, like, you sit down and actually just do it. And all of the big authors have talked about that too. Like, the only way to, like, be an author is to write. And I've, like, really started to hone in on that a lot in this past year. Because, again, I'm not even a year into being full-time self-employed yet. And I have published my second novel, and now my third novel just got published this week. And I have finished the first draft of my fourth book. So, like, it's insane to think about. And that by the time I am turning 30, I will be, I think it's around 16. I did the math wrong the first time, and I was like, oh, is it going to be close to 20? But I think I messed the math up. I think it's closer to 16 books. But still, that's like 3 years of actively writing 4 books a year is going to get me to 12. And then I have the 3 already published, and then I'm going to be doing a 10th anniversary edition of my trilogy next year. So I feel like that's not going to take up the time of a full book. So anyways, moral of the story, I am just so thrilled and happy that everything is coming together, and that here in the next few years, I will have so many books published, and hopefully at some point I will start selling copies. That will be lovely. But I don't know how many witchy books I am going to be writing. I have a few ideas, but we'll see. At least for right now, this is the one I definitely want to publish. And then I'm thinking about writing like some guidebooks, but it also feels so overly saturated. But then at the same time, I'm like, well, I do things chaotically different, so I don't know. Like, I don't know. We'll see. That's a next summer me problem to consider. For now, this one is almost done. This wind is really picking up. But yeah, so this one is almost done. I'm very excited about it. And you will be seeing it hopefully August, maybe September. I don't think it's going to take too long to edit, but we'll see. Because again, I still want to stay on track. And so in order to do that, it does have to get published kind of quickly. Because basically, I've kind of figured out, for the most part, it's kind of leaning around the, what were they? Are they the minor or the major? To me, the major would be the solstice and equinox, but I think those are the minors, which makes no sense to me, but like, I think it is. Anyways, like Lunaza, for sure, Samhain, the fire festivals, basically, which again doesn't make sense because I associate summer solstice with fire more than I do Lunaza, but whatever. Because basically it's going to be Lunaza, Samhain, Imbolc, and Beltane is when, sort of, I will be publishing. Because they don't line up exactly for every 4 months, but every 4 months is, or no, it was every 3 months for 4 books I will be publishing. So anyways, it's quite the journey. But I mean, I already proved to myself that I could do it because I got this draft done in the month where my third novel was off being edited. So like, I know I can do it. I do have to treat it like it's an actual job. Like, even though I was feeling pretty crap yesterday, I still clocked in, so to speak, and wrote for a few hours to finish it off. And like, I don't know. I have to view it as a job. I can't view it as like a hobby anymore, or like, I'm following my dreams. It's like, nah, dude, I want it to pay my bills. Like, it is nice that it's something I enjoy doing, but also at the same time, like, I need it to pay the bills. I need it to be able to help me to buy gas and groceries and pay off medical debts and all sorts of stuff. So anyways, moral of the story, I am very excited that I finally got this draft done, and I will give updates as I go. Again, if you want to follow along for more of the day-to-day of it, I do have my author channel, and you can follow along there for all of my writing shenanigans. And I'll just do a couple updates here and there of like, hey, I did some stuff, but otherwise it's mostly going to live on the other channel. So anyways, I think I will end this here. Huge thank you to my patrons. I'll have their names here on the screen. If you'd like to support me and get access to exclusive content, it is patreon.com/nightwillowcrafts. Make sure to like and subscribe. I post every single day. And until next time, thank you so much for watching, and blessed be.